All right, what is up, my peeps? Joshua Smith here with another GSD Mode Podcast Weekly Real Estate Tip. And today I'm here to talk about two primary things. Number one, getting listings, and number two, getting those listings sold in a declining market environment, which I know most of us are experiencing right now. Now, you might be like, oh, well, Josh, my market isn't declining. It's just softening. Look, dude, let's get one thing straight here. Softening is declining, right? Like things are either growing or expanding, or they're contracting and declining. Like there's no in between. Just like us as human beings, we are either growing or we are decaying, we are dying. No in between there with that. So if your market is softening, don't fool yourself. It is declining. Maybe it's just declining at a slow rate, where it just kind of feels like it's softening, but that means that you started that decline, right? So obviously, what we experienced in 2020, 2021, which was some of the most intense, crazy seller markets that, well, at least that I've ever experienced, in my 18-year career. I can't find any other evidence of a hotter market, which then led to the biggest real estate bubble that we'd really ever seen here, at least here in the United States. So we're just coming out of that. Right. So who knows how long this is going to be, quote unquote, softening, quote unquote, declining. Nobody's got a crystal ball. I don't know how long, how deep, all of this. We just know that we are in it right now, and it's probably going to, be here for a little bit of time, just because real estate isn't something that turns around on a dime. It's not like the stock market where you can have, 10+% swings on a day. It's not something that can just turn around fast. Real estate is a slow moving thing. So once a trend starts, it's not usually like an overnight thing to turn that around. All right. So with that being said, let's jump into this. Again, we're talking about going out there and getting listings in today's market, but then more importantly, and most importantly, how to go out there and get those sold. Because obviously we got to get them and then we got to sell them, right? Like both those things, come together, but it creates challenges in a declining market. And the reality is, you guys, is probably most of you that are watching or listening to this, and we look at most of the industry, I heard a stat, and I heard of this stat. I haven't fact checked it, so I don't know if it's 100% true, but it sounds, like it's probably pretty accurate, which was something about 90% of agents today that are in the market now haven't been in the market pre-2013. So, and maybe that, again, maybe that stat isn't true, but the reality is most people that, and at least, and this is my experience too, most agents, even on my own team, most that I'm having conversations with, most that join my coaching program, most, that are joining my software company, Perfect Storm, whatever, haven't been in this, they might've been in this 5-6 years, whatever. But the reality is, and why I'm bringing this up is, if you haven't been in the market, in most markets since pre-2013, 2012, 2013, you haven't experienced anything but an up market, meaning a seller appreciating market. We're just coming out of the longest bull run in recorded history. What worked yesterday isn't going to work today, isn't going to work tomorrow. We've got to adapt with the different times. Now, the blessing of this is, this creates more challenges for us. It's harder to get things sold. It's, it takes more work. But this is where, true professionals come in. One of my original mentor, or one of my original first brokers, I should say, in this business, one of my first mentors, used to tell me that he would say to me, and this was like back in 2005 when the market was just crazy as shit, like it was in 2020, 2021. But he would sit there and say to me at that time, well, great agents make more money in down markets. And I was like, dude, it didn't make sense until I experienced my first down market, which then quickly became the worst housing market crash in recorded history here in the United States. The great financial crisis of like 2008 to about 2012-ish, well, maybe 2007 to 2012 in the real estate world. But then it made sense and I got it. It takes a different element of skill set in 2020, 2021, especially when it came to the listing side. It's like, look, everybody just wanted real estate, whether they're, people were, you put a sign in the ground, that fucking thing would sell, right? Like it didn't take skill to go out there and sell. And I'm sure you guys experience this in your markets. Like you look at some of these photos, you're like, oh my God, like somebody just whipped out their phone and took these shitty photos. There was no marketing on the property. It looked like shit. There was no professionalism. Not saying that that's true to be everybody. I'm not using generalizations here. There's a lot of professionals. I know you're a professional and so forth in this industry, but we saw, people being able to get away with unprofessionalism and very lazy tactics. Well, that shit doesn't exist, in the market that we are in. And you're going to continue to get in. And when I say the market that we are in, I'm speaking to my market here in Phoenix, Arizona. And here's the blessing of this, and why I recommend that you guys continue, just binging these podcast episodes is My market is a very boom bust market, and we are typically usually about 6 months ahead of most other markets, when it comes to the status of the market. And where I get that stat from is, when I was in the REO world, working with all these asset managers, and these asset managers would work, here in my market, my territory, but then they'd work other markets, other territories in other states. But they would, I'd get this feedback all the time. They'd be like, yeah, we always watch Phoenix because we know that that's where all other markets will be in 6 months, because again, we are a boom bust market. So we are one of the fastest unraveling markets in the United States right now. So my market is probably more severe than yours right now. And for some of you, that may be true. I know there's other pockets, it looks like Boise, Idaho, and maybe the Bay Area in California, that are very similar to my market as far as getting hammered. But it gives you maybe a little bit of foresight of where things are coming, but it creates more challenges, right? When you got listing inventory just being stacked on a monthly basis, we got prices declining, we got rentals declining, we got, all of this stuff going on, right? It's more of a challenge to not just get the listings, but then from there, it's much more of a challenge to go out there and of course, get those sold. So we're going to dive into that. Now, real quick though, when it comes to the listing side, I created a video, I believe last week, that was about, it was something like, I can't remember the exact title. It was like, realtors, 2 things realtors must do now or go broke. But on there, I talked about timeline. So understanding what your timeline is, like understanding like how much money you have in the bank, what your current bills are, how much. So then you can quickly calculate how quickly do you need deals? How quickly do you need commissions? So then that way you can go out there and last. So, it's one of these things where right now listings may or may not need to be your primary focus. So at the end of this video, I'll link to that video so you can watch that. So if you are in a position right now where you need now money, listings may not be the approach that you want to go after. And when I say that, it's like, okay, let's just say we go out there and I start nailing expireds or going after these different tactics that we can do and different strategies that we can do to go out there and get listings. Well, let's just say I go out there and I'm pounding the phones, pounding, whatever strategy I'm doing. I get a listing appointment this week. Right. Okay. Well, I get a listing appointment. Let's just say I'm successful in that. Like, the stars align on all fronts. I get the listing appointment. I go out there, boom, I nail it. They sign as a client. Well, right now we're in a market, and we just talked about this earlier, where like, look, we got to make sure these properties look amazing, right? We got to make sure the product that we are selling looks at its best. So let's just say it's another 2 to 3 weeks for the seller to get it fully decluttered, get it, looking awesome and amazing, right? So then that's, 2 to 3 weeks. Then maybe it's another week for me to get all of my marketing materials, all my professional photos, get everything together so we have it listed on the market. Then in my market right now, average days on the market is like 71 days. So let's just say it does, go under contract in that 71 days. A lot aren't, but the things that are going under contract right now are going under contract in the average of 71 days. So let's just say I'm able to make that happen. Then let's just say that contract does not cancel, there's no major delays. So that closes within 30 to 45 days. So you do the calculation, you do the math, you're going to be somewhere between 3.5 to 4 months before you get paid. And before you get paid, you got money going out and expenses going out. So if you are in a position where you're like, okay, hey man, I need to get paid in like 60, 90 days. Like I need checks now. Right. Okay. Well, then I'm not saying to not go after some listings, but I would be focused on the buy side and going after, those tactics I talk about and strategies I talk about in that video I just referenced, so then that way you can get that now immediate money coming in. So paying attention to timeline is very, very important. Okay. So now let's talk first about getting listings. And this is really important, you guys, when it comes to getting listings right now in this market and as the market continues to decline and get more severe, a common thing that I'm hearing right now, and I'm hearing this from so many agents reaching out to me, is that they're like, oh man, I'm just, nobody's motivated, man. Like sellers aren't motivated, buyers aren't motivated. Nobody's motivated. I know today we're talking about sellers, so let's just stay on that path. I'm reaching out to the expires. I'm having all these conversations with expired listings or whomever, and they are just not motivated to sell right now. Well, this is where education and understanding and knowing your market comes into play. Now, I'm never one, with my scripts, my style, like I've never been one that's been like, okay, well, I'm going to talk people into doing something they don't want to do. I'm going to, I'm not one that's going to try to manipulate or deceive people. I don't believe in that. Like, I don't want that done to me. I don't like doing business to others in a way that I don't want it done to me. It's just my style, so I take a different approach, a different style, which is educate people, be brutally honest, brutally upfront with people. So then that way, with that information, they can make the best decisions for themselves and for their families. But right now, people aren't being, when I say people, a lot of real estate agents I'm having conversations with aren't being brutally honest. They're taking a passive approach. A couple of years ago, well, maybe a few, I can't remember how many years ago, it might've been 3 or 4 years ago, but I was interviewed by Realtor magazine, and they asked me, for whatever reason, I don't know if they were anticipating a market crash, but it was like for that, what do you call those with the magazine? I don't know, that issue, right? For that issue, they interviewed myself and several others that had a lot of success during the great financial crisis, during the housing market crash. So I think maybe at that time they're anticipating maybe, a market crash coming. But they asked me, they're like, what was the biggest learning lessons that you had during that time? Like, if you could do something differently, like knowing what you know now after going through that. And my answer was, I wish I would have been more aggressive with leading my seller clients during that time. Now, I was very, very upfront, very, I educated them like crazy, right? Like, but what I mean by not being aggressive enough is I'd go to them and be like, okay, well, here's what's going on in the market. Here's where you're at right now with your price. Like, here's what's going on with the market. Here, in my professional opinion, is where you need to be priced to get your property sold. What are your thoughts? You're the boss. I work for you. Like, it's up to you. It's your home. And that's, kind of, was always my approach. And historically has been my approach even after that moment. Because the reality is our sellers are the boss, that we work for them, right? Like, they're in control. They're our boss in that scenario and situation. However, because I wasn't, I wish I would have been more aggressive, because dude, I saw so many of my clients that were just losing just grips of money every single month. I mean, I had clients where it was like, when we first started the process, they had, $50,000 or $80,000 in equity. They wouldn't listen to any of my price adjustments, or by the time they did listen, it was way too late. Next thing you know, dude, like, 6-8 months later, now we're in a short sell position. That 80 grand of equity just boom, vanish, and now they're in a tougher spot. And I wished I would have just been like, okay, well, here's where we're at. Here's what's going on in the market. Here's exactly what you need to do. Let's do this. Right? Okay, well, no, we don't want to do that. Okay, well, hey, look, you're just wasting your time. You're wasting my time. Maybe you should go somewhere else. Right? Like just be prepared to stay in this house for, 15 years to get that equity back, or like, shit, I'll get up the pot, right? And of course, I wouldn't have said those words and, been more tactful about it, but I wished I would have been, led that process. Because look, you guys, we are the professionals. People need to be led in certain ways, in certain situations, whether it be on the buy side or the sell side during that given market. Just like in 2020 and 2021, I wouldn't have allowed a buyer, and I wouldn't have worked with a buyer that was like, oh, well, we want to be, 20% under market value. It's like, no, during those times, it's like not just market value. It was 50 or 100 grand above market value, paying the difference for the appraisal gap. Like, we had to lead that process and do that. Well, now we are in that time. And again, I know that some of you are markets, you might be listening to this, but like, dude, Josh, my market just isn't that severe. Okay, that's cool. But more likely than not, you guys, your market will get there. And probably sooner than later. I'm not delusional about where this market is going. I'm not saying that I know where this market is going. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think a lot of people right now have their heads up their ass, and are just hoping and praying. So they will, sell themselves on this narrative, like, oh, this time's different than the last crash. This thing is, right? Yeah, it is different. And there's a lot of reasons to it's different. And there's a lot of things that could be argued as to why it won't be as severe as 2008's crash. But there's also a lot of reasons that can be argued as to why it will be as severe, if not worse. When we look at the debt crisis, you look at deglobalization, you look at, there's so many things right now that we are experiencing that are magnitudes of size and scale that we've never experienced before. So anybody to come to me that like says with certainty, oh, this market, like, it's just going to adjust slightly. I'm like, dude, you are fucking out of your mind if you believe that. Now, I'm not saying they're wrong. However, I'm not going to go out there and attach to any one of those right now, because none of us know. but with what I'm seeing right now, I mean, well, all we know is the trends that are taking place right now, but dude, I will not be surprised at all if this thing isn't much worse and much more severe than the great financial crisis, right? But if it isn't, that's okay too. Like I'm not picking one or the other. However, though, I'm going to be aggressive with my own business right now, making ensuring shit gets done with this. Okay, so the first thing is education, knowing your market. Sorry, I went off on that tangent there. All right, so now I'm just going to go through some stats within my own market to give you guys an idea of like what KPIs am I paying attention to. Because, and this is where I say, when I say know your market, this is what I'm educating clients on. When I'm educating, not just clients, but, clients, of course, with, our twice a week updates on trying to get price reductions and so forth. But then on to get the listing side, let's just say, and there's lots of ways to go out there and generate sell leads, whether you're going after expireds, FSBOs, or maybe circle prospecting. Maybe you're doing online leads, and generating online seller leads, either way. When I have those conversations with them, it's essentially, the same as far as the education with the overall market. But this is what's important to know your market. So if I look at my market and things that I'm paying attention to, and that I know the data and I know the stats, so I can relay these to people inside my market. All right. So right now we got our transaction volume, right? So overall number of transactions that are happening in my market are down 43.4% right now. So we are actually experiencing nationwide the sharpest transaction decline that we've seen since the collapse of Lehman Brothers in 2008, and the longest month-over-month transaction decline that we've experienced since 1999. So, this is kind of a new thing for all of us, and, with combining those two together. So what does that mean? That means 43.4% less people today are willing to buy and sell and transact in my marketplace, right? So, okay, like I got to understand that. I got to know that. I got to be able to educate my seller clients on that. Hey, a year ago, when we had, everybody wanting to buy and sell, right now, that's down 43.4%. So you got 43.4, so around that 44% less, people that are willing to even buy homes at all in our areas at any price point. And it's not because our area isn't growing and expanding, or it's not because our area is contracting. We have more and more people moving here daily. We are a growing metro from a population standpoint. That means that there's 43.4% less people that are willing or able to transact today in this market. All right, so then from there, we have an inventory increase. This is year over year of 119%. So if we look at from May till now, so now meaning January, so May of 2022 to January now, which is really, and the reason why I go to May is, and the reason why I want to know this is know when your market peaked in your market, or what month and date that it peaked in your market. So mine peaked in May of 2022. So when I'm talking peak for prices, but also peak for low inventory. I think low inventory peaked in March, but then prices peaked in May. So then from there, though, I can tell them, hey, we're up 3.7x on inventory count since May of 2022. So now I can break that down and look, okay, we are growing 1.4 weeks of inventory week over week, right? So that just means homes just racking the, so we got exponentially more homes that are being listed and hitting the market each and every single month versus the number that are selling. We got average days on the market increasing by 10 days each and every single month over month. You got active properties up 90%. You got, we're currently 3.8 months worth of inventory. In the last 7 months, we've had a 14% decline overall, right? So about 20% from peak to where we're at right now. But for the last 7 months, directly, because I'm always looking for trends, right? So for the last 7 months on these, we've been averaging 2% month over month decline in sales prices, right? So when we break that down based on the median price point in our marketplace, now each listing that I'm talking to, I'll do the calculation of what this means to them, but I'm just using the median price point just for you guys for this conversation of this podcast right now. So that means then that the average, or with the median price point, if your house is in that median price point range, which for my average price with my team, it's in the median price range, right? So that's $9,000 every single month of lost equity in your home month over month. So dude, if you list, if you listed a month ago, you got $9,000 more than you're going to get today. You wait 30 days, that's another $9,000. Another 30 days, another $9,000. Another 30 days, another $9,000, right? So important things to understand and know. Distressed property sales up 45.3% in the last 12 months in my market. So anyway, just knowing those data points, right? So then that way, when I'm having conversations and whether it be, okay, when I'm doing a monthly market update report, now there's been, overall, historically, my monthly market update reports that I send out to clients are an overall snapshot of the market. Here's what it means to sellers. Here's what it means to buyers. And this current climate that we are in right now, I recommend splitting those up. Have a monthly market update report that you just blast out just to your sellers, and then have another one that you blast out just to your buyer leads. So here's exactly what's going on. Here's exactly what this means. Here's exactly, so then they get it. They understand that, but then when I'm having conversations with people, and again, whether it be an expired, whether it be a FSBO, right now I like expireds and FSBOs, because there's a big percentage of increase in them. So there's more of them, more opportunity than we've seen over the last couple of years. But these are also people that we know have a need to sell right now. Whatever that is. Not all of them have the need to sell, but most of them, need to sell, because you guys, and all we can go on is history. So when I'm having conversations with these seller leads, like all I can go off of is the last housing downturn. So I don't know if it's going to be as severe or not, but I'm portraying and I'm letting them know that, hey, I don't have a crystal ball, but nobody knows how, long or bad this market is going to get. But if we compare it to the last housing market downturn here in Phoenix Metro, here in Maricopa County, from peak prices in 2005, it took 14 years for then prices to recover and get back to 2015 or 5 peak prices. So 2005 was the peak. Shit fell off a cliff, bam, dropped hella low. And then it took till 2019 to get back to 2005 peak prices, right? And when I say that, that's a generalization of the overall market. There might be pockets that corrected slightly differently, from that. But for overall, and that's what it took. So, when people when I get the, other agents reaching out to me right now that are like, oh, dude, sellers aren't motivated in my market. I'm like, are you having upfront, true educational conversations with them of, okay, well, hey, look, why are you thinking of selling? What are you thinking about going? Right now with what's going on in the market, educate them on the market. Our market's dropping 2% month over month. This is a trend now. It's 7 consecutive months of dropping 2% average month over month. Now, based on the last housing market correction that we saw here in the area. Now, I don't know if it's going to be that bad or that severe, but that's what we have to go off of here right now. And in my market right now, you guys, it is unwinding faster than it did, back then, which may mean it may crash, faster and quicker and recover faster and quicker too. I don't know that yet. We're all just playing this bad boy out and seeing how this bad boy goes, right? But I'm educating and prepping them for that. Look, are you okay? If in the event this is similar to what we experienced in the last housing downturn, are you okay with staying in your home for the next 10 to 15 years before the price comes back to really even today's prices, not even counting the peak prices, but even today's prices? It may take 10 years. It may take between 10 and 15 years to get back to what you could get for your property today. Now, if you're okay with that, and if you're okay with your home, if your situation permits you to stay in your home, you enjoy your home, you love your home, and you're okay, you're willing to stay there for the next 10 to 15 years, okay, great. Then ride this thing out. However, if that isn't you, if you can't stay in that home for whatever reason, it doesn't, maybe you've outgrown it, maybe you want to reload, whatever. If you're not prepared and can't stay in that property for the next 10 to 15 years, and if maximizing equity is extremely important to you, then from there, I highly recommend that you sell sooner than later. Right now, you are losing X amount of equity in your house every single month that you wait. Now, again, I don't know how long this is going to go. I don't know how far it's going to go, how long it's going to go, but 7 consecutive months, right? That's, like for me, I always look for 3+ months of something taking place month over month. So it's got to happen at least 3 consecutive months for me to call it a trend. Whether that be within my own business, that I want to see, like before I'll go out there and start increasing ad spend on something or whatever, I want to say three consecutive months that's tracked, that's measured, right? So then I know it wasn't just a fluke. Then I know I just didn't get lucky, then that way I know it's a trend. So having those upfront conversations with them, it gets them thinking, right? And I look at it as like, this is our job. It is our job as the real estate professionals. We have a fiduciary duty to our clients to educate them on the reality of the situation. And people are being way too passive right now. They're treating an expired listing just like, they would a couple of years ago. Well, that's okay. When if they list 6 months from now, there's not much of a difference in their equity, or especially if it's going to be higher in 6 months, okay, hey, look, then maybe they can afford to wait. But right now, if like in my market with the way things are going right now with the median sales price, if they wait 6 months, what's 6 times 9? I'm gonna ask what, 50 grand, 60 grand. I don't have a calculator, I can't do math in my own head, but you guys get my point there. I mean, it's a shit ton of money. If they were, oh, well, we just, like the average expired doesn't relist for the first 90 days. Well, okay. You wait 90 days, that's going to be, 27 grand based on the median price point. Now, of course, I'll know I've done comps, or have an idea of what their home is worth. So I can do the calculations on their home and speak specifically to them about their home, but that might create some different urgency, with them. And I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it to try to fear people. I'm not trying to do it as a manipulation or a way of deceit. I'm here to do it because to give them the best information that they need, or the information they need to make the best decisions for themselves and their family. Because, dude, I saw the shit so many families went through, in the last housing market, correction that led to a crash. And here's the thing, when we were leading up to, so many people were like, oh, nobody expected, the 08 to get so bad, right? Nobody expected it, right? I'm like, well, dude, like people might be repeating themselves right now with that, right? It was from the peak to the 2008 things falling off a cliff was a 31 month, pretty decently slow progression. I mean, it started to accelerate there once we hit 2007, but it started off as for about the first, 18 to 24 months, it was a slow progression. And then it started to accelerate. So we don't know where this thing is necessarily going. All I can know is what is happening right now and what has happened over the last, especially when this thing really started to unwind in my market over the last 7 months. So I'm just voicing that to them, getting them to think about different options. Look, are you prepared to sit in your house? Because I truly believe that this will be at least a decade of recovery on probably all assets, all different asset classes, for most asset classes. Like we're in a little bit of a mess economically, not just the real estate market, but on all fronts with the economy, right? So and we're just starting to see the very beginning phases of this. We're starting to see, just look at this. Just last week, there was about 51,000 layoffs in just the tech center or, tech industry. So we're just starting to see the beginning of this, I won't be shocked and surprised if we don't have about a net loss of a couple million jobs, just this year alone. Okay. So that's when it comes to getting listings, just making sure that you are coming at them with the right education, that you are armed for that. So you can speak to them on that so they can be educated. Because a lot of people right now might be thinking, whatever. People just have people aren't always, don't really think things through, right? That, this temporary, it'll turn around, as soon as we get Biden out of office, and, Trump gets back in there, whatever, it'll turn. Like, I've had so many people over my career that have been like, oh, well, I just want to wait till the new president's in there. Cause I'm like, dude, I've never seen a president have an impact on the real estate market, right? It's deeper than that, right? So, so just making sure that you're educating them on that, right? And again, if their situation permits it, there's going to be some people that are totally good and totally content with riding this thing out for 10 to 15 years. Great. Right. But then there's going to be a percentage of those that are like, well, fuck, no, dude, I need to sell now. I didn't realize that it was that bad. Most people like my friends, my family, like I'm having conversations with that live in my market have no idea the severity of this. It's not like, the local news is telling them how bad this shit is right now. A lot of people still think that the market is still good, still strong. Yeah, they hear on the news it's softening. Yeah, they hear that things are slowly changing, but they don't know the true severity of it at this time. Okay, so then from there, now when it comes to going out there and getting your listing sold, because this is, look, you can go out there and stack up 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 listings, but if they're just listings in the ground and you're not getting activity, you're not selling those quickly become, 30, 50, 100 expensive headaches, right? From that. So There's three things overall that it takes to go out there and sell listings. And this holds true for any market, but it becomes more important, in declining markets. Like right now in my market, with the average days on market being 71 days before a property goes under contract. Well, now it takes a different skill set to update them. Right. To keep them engaged, keep them in the game, keep them happy, keep things moving forward. Right. Well, just wait. We're gaining 10 days every single month. So next month at this trend, it's going to be 81 days. Then it'll be 91 days. Then it'll be 101 days. Right. I've had times in my career where the average days on market was 180 days. Like keeping these sellers engaged for 6 months, takes a different skill set, different processes, different systems, right, with that. So there's three things. You got product, you got promotion, and you got price. So the product is the home itself. You guys got to make sure, and I know this is kind of common sense for most of you out there, but it's just an important reminder. Make sure that the product's looking as good as it possibly can. Now, I get that the sellers, may not have money to go out there and trick the property out, do new paint, new carpet, whatever it may be. But you got to understand that the product is competing with all the other like-to-like products in your marketplace. Like that's a competing product. So you want to get the product to look at as best that it possibly can within the seller's means. Now, everybody can go out there and declutter. Everybody can put in elbow grease and scrub and clean the house, get it smelling good, get it looking good. Like we walk all of our sellers through. We have our How to Prep Your Home for Sale guide that walks them through exterior and interior, including the garage, room, front yard, backyard, every single room by room, with a checklist of everything to do, so they know exactly what we need to have that house look like, right? And baseboards scrubbed, vents, vacuumed out, just everything decluttered, clean, closets, like everything, looking at its absolute best. And then we might need to do some rearrangement with furniture and to open spaces up, all of those things, and use a real estate professional. I'm not saying that you got to necessarily go out there and hire stagers. I've had times in my career where we've hired stagers. Then I've went out there and just taken staging classes myself. And after, selling 7,000 plus homes here in my market, you get this shit down to a science a little bit, so I know what that stuff needs to look like to get that property ready. So it's like, okay, we've got 2 stages with this. We got to get it prepped and ready for the bringing in the professional photographers. And we then even have a checklist of, before a photographer gets here, here's what we need to have in the house, because the photographers are busy, so like we need blinds open, like all this different stuff, whatever, so the photographer can get in there and do their job well, and then from there, now that, everything's ready to rock and roll, get it on the market, well, then we have a daily checklist for our sellers to follow before they leave the house every single day. It's like, before you leave, drop your kids out of school, go to work, here's the checklist every single day. Why? Because we're going to have, hopefully, buyer traffic in that property, hopefully daily, at least multiple times a week, right? And each one of those is an opportunity that we can't afford to miss. Right. So it's not just about getting it looking good to get on the market. Then it's maintaining that good look, and I get it. It's a pain in the ass, but that's where it comes in, educating the sellers, keeping the sellers reminded of their goals. It's just like when I was a personal trainer, dude, I had to keep selling my clients on getting in the gym, selling them on their diets. And how did I sell them? By reminding them of their goals, why we started this, why we're doing this, why this is important, right? This is for them. This is what's serving them. Right. So that's product. Then obviously promotion. Go out there and have it promoted right. Great photos, get on the MLS correctly, all that shit for promotion. You guys know what to do there. Then from there, price. Now, price is something that a lot of you may not understand how to price properties in this market. I'm not saying you don't know how to comp properties and do CMAs, but if you are in a declining market like mine, we're going to look at all the sold comps. We're going to look at all the sold comps. We're going to look at the pendings. We're going to look at the actives. And sometimes, it can be good, especially if you can't get your sellers to go out there and do the certain things they need to do to the property. Go out there and even with them, go show them and preview them the other active competition, so they can truly see what the other product is, so they can get a feel for, okay, well, shit, man, whether, because if we can't get the product looking that good, okay, then you got a discount price. Can do 2 things there. Either get the product looking good, or we discount the price. But it's got to be one of those, right? Like, we are in a different environment. It's not 2020, 2021, early 2022 anymore. It's not what we've experienced the last decade. It's a different market right now. So it's like, okay, if you got 5 water bottles, but you have 10 buyers for those water bottles, what do those water bottles need to do to sell? Right? Like, they've either got to, pop out and be, way bigger, brighter, nicer, have added extra, electrolytes, added shit that the other ones don't have to sell for the same price, or maybe they can even get a little bit of a premium at that, or they got to be at a much discounted price, right? Because there's 10 buyers, or I'm sorry, you got 10 water bottles, 5 buyers, right? Not, supply and demand. So I fucked that up. We just got to have an environment where there was 10 buyers, but only 5 water bottles. So those water bottles could get a demand, and get a premium for those, because you're going to have 5 people that were out, right? Of not getting water, right? Well, this is the opposite. This is where you have 10 water bottles, but only 5 buyers, so then from there, like, you got to be, you've got to go out there and either be at a discounted price to make it lucrative and undercut everybody else to ensure you get purchased up, or you got to have something that the others don't have. Right. Okay. So then when it comes to pricing in a declining market, it's looking at the solds, looking at the pendings, looking at the actives. And what we're really focused on is the actives. We got to make sure that not only are we the best product, that we're competitive, at least with them from a product standpoint, but that we are the best price, and that may be like right now with things not selling and having so much competition out there on the inventory side. Again, like, you got to be sometimes substantially discounted from that price point, so a lot of times this can mean, okay, hey, it's not just being priced competitively. We got to be, between 2 and 5% lower than all of the other active comps in our marketplace. So it's not just looking, because sold data is data from what, 30, 45 days ago, 60 days ago, 90 days ago, right? Well, like, that sold comps aren't necessarily going to do me any good when my market's dropping 2% month over month. Right. So we got to look at, again, what are those actives and where do we need to be to make sure that out of all these properties that they're going to go out there and see, like, we're first on their list. Right. So, and that can be being priced. It's not about being priced right. It's about being priced under right, and which equates to right inside a declining market. And then being aggressive when it comes to getting price reductions if and when needed. You got to, when a declining market, you think of this as like a mountain, right? You got this mountain, this hill, and you got this ball that's running down the hill. Well, most people are behind the ball trying to chase it down the hill. No, you got to get in front of that ball, right? To be able to catch it. So you got to swoop down, get in front of it so you can catch it. So that's what I'm talking about, being priced below market, right? Being, I'm not saying 10, 20% below, but somewhere between probably 5%, and depending on how soft your market is and how the severity of it. But in my market right now, it's probably about 5%, right? And then from there, couple things. All right. So having these, because the reality is, you guys, if you are not getting showings and things aren't moving, it comes down to, again, it's either product, promotion, or price. And you can revisit those and see where you're missing those. But, what's in control is for you is product and promotion, right? Well, product's kind of out of your control, but you can do everything that you can to get the sellers to do that. But if they're not, I look at that as, okay, if they don't get the product to where we need it to be, then from there, that just adjusts the price. I get my, hey, you got a couple, you don't want to do this, you can't do this, fine. Okay, then we just got to drop it another 15 grand on price. Whatever. I mean, it's just what it's got to be, right? But then from there, right now, like, what we're doing and what I recommend is twice a week follow-ups with your clients. And those twice a week, going over, reevaluating the numbers. Where do we need to be? Like, things are moving fast. You got to be aggressive with this stuff, right? And right now we're looking at this, man. If I'm not getting a minimum of 3, right? So I want to get at least 3 co-broke showings each and every single week. If we're not, I know, like, if we're going, because I'll hear about this all the time from other agents. Is, oh man, how do we got this? I got this listing. It's priced right. It's priced right, but I haven't had any showings in 3 weeks. It's not priced right. Unless, okay, maybe it's a very unique situation where it's, in a very, secluded area, very, whatever. There's always exceptions to the rules, but using generalizations here, which, that most apply to 99% of the time, 9 times out of 10 or so, it is going to be a pricing issue. We're looking at this, okay, hey, like, we need to be getting at least 3 co-broke showings on, the other agents showing our properties to their buyers, not counting like open houses, each and every single week. Right. And if we're not, boom, we're talking price. We're having these adjustments, right? If we get right now in this market, man, if we're getting between that kind of, 3 to 5% range, well, I say 3 to 5. If you get more than 5, that's great, but right now we're just not seeing a flow, much greater than that on average, kind of 3 to 5 is about the average that we're getting when we know that we're priced right. And then then from there, if we get that flow, we know that within that average times on market, more likely than not, we're going to get an accepted contract or a contract that we can put together to get accepted on that property. Okay, so then from there, last thing I want to talk about is getting agent feedback and putting deals together. This comes part of negotiation. So when you're getting that agent feedback, we got to be aggressive now, getting agents on the phone and getting that feedback from them so we can provide that to our sellers. And I'm not just talking about regular feedback here, like being aggressive with this, right? Because it's our job to put deals together. This becomes part of promotion and part of our negotiations and marketing here and promotion, is this feedback. So, okay, yeah, like, well, what'd your buyers think? How did you think it showed? But, all the regular questions that, you're going to ask them. But then from there, right, taking it a step deeper. And this is what I'm talking about with negotiations, man. It's like, hey, you got a buyer. This is me speaking to the other agent. Hey, look, you got a buyer. Your buyer wants a house. You want to get your buyer that house. You want to get them under contract. They want to get under contract. You want to get paid. I want to get paid. My seller wants to close. My seller wants to get this thing sold. Like, let me just ask you this. What do we need to do? What would it take for this XYZ listing to be your buyer's number one choice? What would it take? Let's figure out what it's going to take to put this deal together here in the next 24 hours. Like, I'm not promising my seller's going to take this, but give me an offer. Like, what is this going to be? Right? Like, let's figure out a way to put this thing together so we can make this a win for everybody. And I'll go out there and, do my part, work with my seller and see what I can do here. But what is it going to take? Right? Like, I'm here to get offers, dude. I want to, and like, dude, if they're like, okay, well, we need it to be 20 grand under, plus we need a 9% seller concession for whatever. And look, a lot of times, you got to put deals together for other agents. A lot of other agents don't have the expertise in this industry. So, okay, put the deal together, right? Okay, well, what's prohibiting you? Now, if they're like, oh, do they fucking hated the power lines in the backyard? They just can't live with that. They can't stand that they just can't. Okay, well, there's things that we can't control, but like, let's just say it's a thing. Well, this is kind of the top of their price point. And at this price point, it makes their mortgage payments, a little challenging for them. So we wanted to take a look at it just in case they absolutely fell in love and were willing to make that sacrifice. But, they liked the property, but they didn't love it. And they just don't think that, with that uncomfortability of payment, if it's worth the taking on that risk for them. Okay, look, that's great feedback. What if, like, what kind of financing are your buyer getting? Oh, well, they're 20% down conventional loan. Okay, well, what if I can get my sellers, not saying I can't answer for them, but what if I can get my sellers to agree to a 9% seller concession? So we got your buyer's closing costs paid. Then we can put 5 to 6% of that down for a rate buy down, get your buyer's payments, to get their interest rate down, get their buyer's payments very aggressive, or get it very low, where then it puts them in that comfort range. What if we can make that, if we can figure out a way there? Do you think that this is a possibility? Oh, well, that could be, right? Like, you got to go out there, like, you got to coach and train them, put deals together and walk people through, and don't assume that the other agents know what the fuck they're doing. A lot of times they don't, right? So a lot of times they're just chauffeurs, man, right? With this, and I'm not using that as a negative term. Sometimes they're just new and they don't have the experience. Sometimes they just haven't had a good brokerage or a good mentor to coach them and train them on these things, or sometimes they're just brand new. Like, who knows? It doesn't matter. I'm never going to take it with the assumption that they know what they're doing. Right? Like, hey, I'm here to take the bull by the horns, put this deal together, lead this process, and get shit done. Right? So anyway, so then from there, again, twice a week updates and being aggressive at putting those deals together. Like I said, when I led this off, you guys, like, make sure that you're updating, you keep yourself very educated on your market and relaying that education, whether it to be leads to your clients and so forth, so they can make those right decisions, and have success at getting their goals, annual goals accomplished. Anyways, I hope that you found this helpful. If you guys haven't already, go check out gsdmode.com. On there, I got a bunch of other free resources to help you grow your business. Two primarily that I have going on right now that I highly recommend you take advantage of. I got a 3-hour in-depth masterclass where I'm walking through anything and all things that we're doing right now to pivot and shift and adapt in this marketplace. So it's 6 steps to 3xing your real estate business in the next 12 months, regardless of the market. So I know a lot of you are having challenges in this market. So go take that masterclass 100% free. Also in there's my free ebook, which is just 42 top tips, strategies. There's no fluff. Each chapter is just a different tip. Like, I don't really go into stories. It's just, bam, here's this strategy. Here's this strategy. Here, essentially it's like 42 of these weekly real estate tips, broken down to text format, in there. So, both of them at gsdmode.com, both 100% free, no strings attached. So just go snag your copies, go jump in right now. And again, you guys truly appreciate your support. Keep kicking ass, and I will see you next time. Peace.